Hey there, Business Freedom Podcast listeners. You all are in for a treat today. Thomas Elrod is with us, and he's going to go into just a cool background in business. And then he's been in the business of building a real estate team for, about 9 years now. So, Thomas, give us like the hook. You know, we're competing with a gazillion other things people can do with their time. So what will the team do this year in volume and units and some other sort of tidbit to get someone to listen to the entire podcast?
This year, the team we're pending one a day right now. So we're tracking 365. Our average price point's right around 300. So you can do the math. We're right around 100 million and 3.6 to 3.8 million GCI, depending on where we ask for our commissions.
So the title is going to be how to go from 3 deals to 365 deals in less than 8 years.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
3 deals in 2010. I got my license in March of 2010. Before that, I was, where I get my business sense happens to be a couple of combinations of things. I was with the Carolina Panthers in 1995, 96, and 97. I was a original ball boy for the team. And yes, I did everything that you could possibly imagine, from picking up jock straps to helmets to shagging balls to whatever I needed to do. And I learned a lot about a high-performing organization, an NFL team, and how they operate from a business, marketing, coaching, accountability, discipline standpoint. And then after that, in 1998, me and my family bought a Pontiac Buick GMC franchise, a General Motors store, in August of 1998. And then we had that store until the market crashed in September of 2008. And then I decided I did not want to go back to selling cars. I felt like I'd put 11 years of my life into 10 to 11 years of my life into an industry that was just a very, very, very tough industry. And so I took a little bit of a sabbatical, drew unemployment, decided that everybody was getting out of real estate, because in 2009, I think our MLS went from roughly 12, 13,000 agents down to 4,000 or 5,000 agents. And a mentor of mine said a few times back in December of 2009, before I got my license, he said that when everyone's running away from opportunity, run towards it. And he said that probably 5 or 6 times. When everyone's running away from opportunity, run towards it. And that guy's name is Warren Buffett, and pretty smart guy. And so I decided to go up to the real estate school, pay my $424, get my real estate license. It came in the mail in March. Hung my license with Keller Williams Realty, and I crushed it my first year, selling 3 houses, one to my dad, one to my best friend, and one to a girl I was dating at the time. And realized that I was going to have to go back to selling cars, or I like to say, I used to tell everyone I sold precious metals because they would always say to me, "What do you do for a living?" And when I told them I was a car salesman, they'd look at me like I was just, subhuman debris. And so now I prevent homelessness.
Awesome.
That's where we sit today.
Let's get the motivational ball rolling. Is there any like motivational quote or like advice that's been kind of swimming through your mind all these years as you've been building the real estate team? Anything come to mind, like a quote? Or
I've got 2, Lars. The first quote is, "Success is how high you bounce when you've hit rock bottom." And I hit rock bottom in fourth quarter of 2008. After that September, lost everything. I had the sheriff's department literally knock on my front door here in Charlotte and serve an eviction notice. Went to 99 weeks of unemployment. I had to borrow the $424 to go to the real estate school. And so that would be my first quote that really stuck with me. And then my second is the definition of entrepreneurship. And the definition of entrepreneurship, and it's on my computer screen right now. If I were to share screen this podcast with you, it would show on all of my screens, and it's been on my screen since the day I got into real estate, is that entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. And those two quotes for me, along with a Art Williams, Just Do It, 5-minute video that I love, have been very, very instrumental in my real estate career.
Awesome. Thomas, I want to break down probably into 3 different phases of growth for you. So I want you to talk about, being a solo agent and what that time looked like, what the schedule looked like, maybe to when you hired your first assistant and maybe your first few, like a small team, and then maybe, the last few years, and, when you really went for 1.5, 2.2, 3 million, 3.5, like the growth has been pretty drastic here. So break it down maybe into the 3 phases of your growth for your real estate team. And then I'll ask questions as we go, but did you feel prepared for each phase? How did you, with all the challenges that come your way, how did you deal with it all? So break down the different phases of your growth for us.
I think my intention from the very beginning was to build a team. And I realized that I needed to I didn't need to be the best at every position on a team. I needed to understand the position to some degree, so that when I did make a hire, I kind of knew whether they were doing the job correctly in the amount of time allotted. And I also thought that I knew everything about everything when it came to sales. And I realized that, yes, I may have known a lot about sales. And at the end of the day, real estate is a completely different animal. And so I didn't hire a coach, which was a bad, horrible idea for almost 3 years. So I got my license and hung it with the Keller Williams office in April of 2010, April 1st of 2010. I just kind of willy-nillied my way that first year. I worked from home, which was a bad idea. And I'm a pretty driven person. And at home, there were a lot of distractions. And from, cutting grass to, I've got a saltwater fish tank that I like to mess with. I wanted to watch CNBC Squawk Box and stock market. I needed to wash clothes. I needed to do all these things that had nothing to do with my job. So I decided that I had to get into the office every day and treat this new career like my previous career. And that I had to, when we go into this industry, we think that we were our own boss. And we learn real quickly that we all need accountability. The Pope needs accountability. The President needs accountability. Gary Keller needs accountability. Lars Hedenborg needs accountability. And Thomas Elrod needs accountability. And accountability is the breakfast of champions. And for the first year, I worked from home, and that was a bad mistake. The minute that I got a cubicle inside our office and got engaged and started plugging into our market center, I learned very quickly that there's a lot I didn't know about real estate. And so I did the jobs. I did 21 transactions in my second year. 19 were buyers and 2 were sellers. So I went from 3 transactions to 21. I realized real quickly that 19 buyers and showing properties and being out there was not where I needed to be. I was working hard. I wasn't working smart. And so then someone told me about this little red book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and this triangle called listings, leads, and leverage. And they shared with me that I needed to start focus on listings, that listings make babies, that listings generate buyers, that typically when a seller needs to sell, they need to buy. So you can get 2 transactions there versus working with a buyer who, when they close, they're going to be there 5 to 7 to 10 years before you're ever going to get them as a client again. And so my third year, I went to 27 transactions, and about half of the business was listings and half of the business was buyers. So then I decided, okay, I learned about dollar producing activities, and I learned what I was good at. And I'm good at about 20% of the transaction, which is the lead generation part, the negotiations, the follow-up, the appointments, the prospecting. I was really good at that. I just wasn't good at the the compliance and crossing the T's and dotting the I's and the back end. And I was doing all that. I was doing all that by myself. And it was a disservice to the clients. So the very first thing that I did was, and I got it backwards according to MREA, I hired a showing specialist. And the Millionaire Real Estate Agent says hire an executive assistant first and take off your lower dollar producing activities that you aren't good at and put higher dollar producing activities on your calendar that you're good at. I hired a showing agent in September of 2012, and he was with us for 4+ years, and he took all the buyers off of me. So all I would do is write, negotiate contracts and get it to the closing table, and he would show houses, and that's what he did. His name was Teddy. We used to call him 24-hour Teddy, and he would close. His first year, he closed 72 buyers, and his first full year. So he kind of helped me that last end of 2012, and then 2013, that was the year that I had a lot of growth. So I went from the 27 sides, I jumped to 75 sides, then I jumped to 128 sides. So in a 24-month period, went from 27 sides to 128 sides, and then 151, then 228, and then 278, and then this year we're tracking roughly 365. And my second hire, who's still with us to this day, she was my personal assistant, as well as she started taking some of the administrative part off the team, off of me. And I got her for 20 hours a week. I paid her $9 an hour. I had her take my dry cleaning to the dryer, to the dry cleaner. I had her take my checks and deposit them at the bank with a deposit slip. I had her grocery shopping. I had her paying my bills. Someone asked me a couple of weeks ago when I was down at Keller Williams event on stage, someone came up to the microphone and said, "How did you trust this person to take your checkbook and write your checks?" And I said, "Because I had no money in my account. I was flat broke. I had nothing to lose." And so I gave her my checkbook. And after about 2 weeks, I asked her, could she come on full time for 40 hours a week at $10 an hour? And it was the best decision that I ever made. And it's one of the reasons that you and I are sitting here talking on this podcast, Lars, was she took off the lower dollar producing activities that I shouldn't have been doing. And, you know, I always used to wonder why some people make $50,000 a year and some people make $150,000 a year and some people make $500,000 a year. Some people make $5 million a year. And we all have 86,400 seconds in a day. We all have 1,440 minutes in a day, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. We all have 168 hours in a week. And what you do with that time is the difference between the $50,000 a year person and the $500,000 a year person and where you're spending that time.
Yeah.
And so what she did was she took all of that off of me so that I could focus on prospecting. In fact, she took my cell phone. When I first came in the morning, she took my cell phone away. It would not give it to me after 11 o'clock. And I used our Keller Williams office phone to make calls. And all I called was expireds and for sale by owners and withdrawals, cancels. I hired my first coach in 2013. So the timeline is 2010, I didn't have a coach. 2011, I didn't have a coach. 2012, I didn't have a coach. I hired an executive assistant and a showing agent in 2012. Then 2013, in January, February, I hired a coach. And the minute that I hired one, that was where you saw the trajectory of the business.
Let's talk about, you know, in our industry, I don't think enough of us are really open about the failures, you know, the times where, you know, it's just like, I can't push through this, or this is something I've never dealt with before. Were there any sort of failure points that stick out that, you know, that you were able to push through, and what'd you learn from those failure points?
How much time we got?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have, you know, I always tell people I got a PhD and DUMB when it comes to real estate. I've done every dumb thing you could possibly do in real estate and spent money every dumb way you could possibly spend it. So, you know, looking back, something so basic, Lars, as working on your business and working in your business. I did not know the difference. No one had ever said to me, that working in your business is actually, prospecting, lead follow-up, appointments, negotiations, writing contracts, opening doors for buyers. Working on your business is your Zillow profile or your Facebook page or that beautiful brochure. And what I was doing is I was coming into the office, and at 10 a.m. in the morning, I'm working on a brochure. Well, I can work on a brochure at 10 o'clock at night. I needed to be out shaking hands and kissing babies and knocking on doors and picking up the 500-pound phone and talking to people when they were available to talk. And so once I learned that working on my business, there's a time to do it, and working in my business, there's a time to do it, that was a complete mindset paradigm shift for me, and changed everything. In 2012, I decided to form that team, and I brought on that showing agent, and I brought on that executive assistant. And then in 2013, I just brought on a bunch of people on the team, and I told them they were all agents, and they were all going to sell stuff, and they were all going to knock hard, ring the doorbell, and pick up the phone and do all these things. And I learned real quickly that you can't put a square peg in a round hole. And I always use the analogy because, as you know, in the beginning of this podcast, I was in the NFL with Richardson Sports and the Carolina Panthers for 3 seasons. And I learned real quickly that a quarterback is good at playing quarterback. And if you were to take Cam Newton and tell him, Cam, you're not playing quarterback anymore for the team, you're going to kick field goals, and you're going to be a field goal kicker. Oh, and by the way, the field goal kicker is now playing quarterback for the team. You're going to go 0-16 that season, right? That's what began to happen. Is I built a team up, and I had everybody thinking that they were like me and that they could do the position that I could do. And I realized that we're all different. My mom always says we're all snowflakes. We're all a little bit different. God made us all differently, and we all have unique abilities. And what I was doing in the beginning was I was focusing on people's weaknesses and trying, and I say trying, I was trying to make it their strength. And I realized that if I just focused on their strength and magnified it and put them in the right position, that we would go a lot further. So to make a long story short, 2013, we had 8 members on the team. We get to the end of the year. I realized that the showing agent that I hired was a good fit. And I realized that the executive assistant that I hired was a good fit. And I let everybody go from the team. And I started over. Now get this, Lars, this is the cool part. So that 2013 year, we did 75 transactions. At the end of 2013, we got rid of everybody except myself and 2 others. We started adding team members, and we did 128 sides in 2014. And then we went to 151 in 2015. And then we got over 200 in 2016. Because I got the right people in the right positions. And that was huge for us. And ever since then, as you know, through your coaching in Real Estate B School, that we are putting people in their sweet spot. We're not focusing on their weakness. We're focusing on their 20%, not the 80% that they're not good at. And that was the biggest thing that I learned.
Yeah, and it blows my mind that 85% of real estate agents don't have an assistant.
Yep.
And you think of, like you said, 80% of the work that a real estate agent does in the course of working with buyers and sellers, with generating the business, servicing the business, and then keeping in touch, 80% of it is administrative.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I always say there's tree shakers and jelly makers. Tree shakers are the salespeople that are out there shaking that tree every day, and that fruit falls to the ground. And the administrative team is picking up the fruit and making jelly.
You there, Thomas? All right, we're back online. Little technical glitch there. Thomas, let me shift the conversation just a little bit. So, at some point in the journey of building a business, you have this sort of aha moment where it kind of comes together. The world looks differently. Maybe you've suffered enough pain where you're finally going to kind of take a new direction. What was maybe one of those moments of truths, moments of truth for you, and what'd you learn from it?
So, there's the old saying of the 3 levels of leadership, right? I do it. You got to learn how to lead yourself. We do it together, and then they do it, right? And after losing everything in 2008, 2009, I felt like I had something to prove. And I had basically kind of built a shrine into myself. I built a business that was all about me. It was called Elrod Real Estate Experts, and everything was Elrod, and it just kind of realized that I was looking at it from the wrong way. And I looked at our clients as buyers and sellers, and I realized that at the end of the day, as a business owner, my clients are our agents and our admin team. And then if I serve them at the highest level and come from a servant's heart, then they will go and serve our buyers and sellers and investors. And that's why we took the name off the door and took the name off of everything and changed the name to High Performance Real Estate Advisors, was because I didn't want it to be about me anymore. I didn't want the trophies, the accolades, being on stage. I didn't want it to be about me. And the crazy thing, Lars, is that the minute that it was less about me and more about everybody else, it became more about me. The team really rallied around that thought process, because I was coming into the office every day asking myself, how can I bring so much value to our team members that they outgrow me because of me? And the more that I did that, and the more that I poured into them, the more that they would fight for me, would fight for the cause. The loyalty. I mean, we've got my EA, she's been here 6.5 years. One of our marketing girls, Paige, she's been here 5 years. One of our top agents, who closed over 100 houses last year and $30 million, he's been here over 4 years. One of our other agents, she's been here 6-7 years. And so the more value you bring, the more that they rally around you, they fight for you, they'll die for you, they love you. And when it's all about you and everything's about you and the team's there to serve you versus you being there to serve the team, that's not going to last but so long, and that's not scalable. And the cool thing about it is I was told a long time ago by one of my mentors that you can work like 10 men and women, or you can teach 10 men and women how to work. And it's that whole, I do it, we do it together, and then they do it. And what's transpired over the last year or two is they're doing it. I'm less in the business than I was 2 or 3 years ago. They know how we like it done as a partnership. They realize it's a business partnership. I explain to them every day, guys, I am not your boss. Now, I may be your coach. I'm not a manager. I'm not a boss. I'm a coach, and I'm your business partner. And when you look at it that we're in partnership together and we're business partners, and you have that mindset as a business owner, that changes everything. And that's the truth of the matter, is whether people want to believe it or not, that those agents and those administrative team members are their business partners, right? And so coming from a servant's heart, like Jesus did, with his 12 disciples, I always use the analogy that, or the story of, before the Last Supper, Jesus washed his disciples' feet, and he knew that he was going to be turned in by, 1 or 2 of them, and he still loved on them, and he still gave them grace, and he still forgave them, and he still just served. And as long as we keep that mindset and really come from contribution, and come from contributions used so much in our society. I mean, really, truly, when it's not about the money, when it's not about the next unit or the next commission check, and it's really about what's doing best for that team member and being there for them, that's when it all comes together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really well said. What's one thing you're doing really well in the business right now as a team that you guys are doing really well?
Probably our repeat and referral business. Last year, we were right at 1.1 million out of our 3+ million in GCI from past repeat referral client business. That's one thing. Consistency is one thing. You know, we get in the office like we're supposed to. We're here at 7:29 a.m. And the reason I use 7:29 a.m. is that's the time that we're here Monday through Friday, sitting at our conference room table. We put our cell phones away and we're completely present. We say a quick prayer. We give one positive focus. We begin in gratitude. We call it Go Big, B-I-G, begin in gratitude. And then we're scripting and role playing. And then we're on the phones at 8:10. And we consistently do that for the last several years. And what's happened is our trajectory as a company has just continued to go up every single year. We start every day at zero, Lars. And when I say every day at zero, we don't have 68,000 people in Boomtown every morning when we wake up. We don't have 42 pendings. We don't have 60-something activated listings. We don't have anything working. Our mindset is that every day we start at zero, and our job is to feed the data bank. Our job is to go after new business development and time block that and not let anything come in the way of our new business development time. And the one day that we don't do new business development that day, our income suffers 90 days from that day. And so we're very intentional about time blocking it. And I always say that there are no emergencies in real estate. If the house is on fire, I promise you, one of the neighbors will call 911, right? And after 11 o'clock in the morning or noon, guess what? Attorneys are still open. Home inspectors are still open. The lender is still there till 5 o'clock. Anything can take place after that needs to be taking place that's old business. But if they come in every day with the mindset that every day we wake up unemployed in real estate, every one of us do. If you're in the real estate industry, we wake up unemployed. There's no guarantee that closing is going to happen that day. There's no guarantee that pending is actually going to close. And if you're not getting new business, you're going to be on the roller coaster ride of real estate. And I see it happen all the time in this industry. And that's why, like you said, 80% of the people are out of the business within 24 months because they get so caught up in the paycheck and that one paycheck, and they forget to go do new business development and start every day at zero. So those are the things that are really working well for us. Now I can tell you a bunch of stuff that's not working.
All right. Tell us one thing that you're working on right now, improving.
Conversions, set to met. We set a lot of consultations. We set over 1,000 consults last year. And
I thought it was 2,000.
Maybe it was 2,000.
We met like 1,000.
We met. You're right. We set over 2,000 and we met right at 1,000. Well, that's about a 50% set to met. What that tells me is that our value that we're bringing isn't what we thought it was. And that the reason people don't show up to your office is there's an absence of value. The reason people don't sign with you, there's an absence of value. The reason people ask you to reduce your commission right off the get-go is there's an absence of value. And so we've really been focusing on this year to getting our conversions up from set to met to signed, and even signed to under contract. That has been our main focus. And it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle because what I have learned in this business is that good leads, really good leads, can get buried up under bad leads. And being able to separate the good leads from the bad leads, there's an art to it. And a lot of it has people say, well, find out their motivation. And I say, find out their motivation and dig 3 deep. Ask 3 questions to 6 questions about their motivation. And most people just say, tell me, Lars, why are you moving? Oh, we're downsizing. Okay, great. And they move on to the next question. Hey, Lars, why are you downsizing? Well, we don't need all this space anymore. We're empty nesting. Okay, so by having all that space, less space, what's that going to do for you? Well, Thomas, either my things own me or I own my things, and I want to spend time with my wife, Julie, and I don't want to have to deal with this big old house anymore. Oh, now we're getting to the motivation. Yeah. Then at that point, then you can build value and construct a conversation so that Lars and Julie would love to meet with Thomas and downsize. And so it's really just slowing down a little bit to speed up with potential buyers and sellers. Yeah. And so that's where we're really focusing this year.
Let me, we've got a few minutes left here. I'm going to go through some rapid fire questions. So like 1, 2, maybe 3-word answers. All right. So what keeps you up at night when it comes to your business?
Expenses.
What were you most afraid of when building a real estate team?
Failing.
What's the best?
And the families that were involved, letting the families down.
Got it. What's the best advice you've ever received about business?
Cash is king. Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What? How about one book that you'd recommend for someone maybe that's sort of kind of starting a team, but they're not picking up steam? What's one book you'd recommend?
Sales side or ops side?
Either. Sales. I mean, you need sales, I would say.
There's 2 books, Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt and The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes.
Awesome.
Operations side would be Traction and Rocket Fuel.
Yep. Awesome. As we wrap up, a lot of people in the industry are suffering. We've talked about it before, how the industry is broken in a lot of ways, where traditional success is just not worth having. You're working 8 days a week, 25 hours a day. What advice would you give for someone right now who's struggling?
Hire real estate B school. And you didn't pay me to say that. Hire a coach, whether it's real estate B school. Get some accountability. The real estate, there are no magic, secret things about real estate. And there's people that have been here and done that. And you can go and try to figure it out on your own, or you can pay someone who's been there, been in the trenches, and can guide you to the most effective and efficient way to get your units and volume up. And I always tell people say, well, I can't afford coaching, Thomas. And I said, you can't afford not to have a coach. Yeah. And I learned that. If I would have had a coach, Lars, when I first got in the business, you and I probably, well, let's put it this way. The background right here would have coconut trees and an island, and I'd be sipping Mai Tais right now talking to you, because I probably wouldn't even be at the office today.
Yeah, that's awesome. This has been awesome. Your wisdom, the wisdom you bring from your different careers into real estate, I think is awesome. I have a lot of respect as for you as a brother in Christ, a business partner, and just a good dude that I've seen give to others around him over and over again. So Thomas said it, and this was not the purpose of the podcast, is to plug Real Estate B School. But if you're struggling and you've already achieved that, like, I can't do any more, and I'm already doing everything I think I can, just go to realestatebschool.com. That's the only step, is a conversation. There's no hardcore selling that we do. It's you're a fit or you're not a fit. So Thomas, I appreciate you, brother. I know you've got a busy schedule. Real Estate B School, thanks to you. The listeners of the podcast, thank you. So we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.